Good morning, everybody, and welcome to The Rock and here in Pinetown. And what I've called the message this morning is the bush and the cross. And I want to try and tie up. Well, I want to try and talk, first of all, but I want to try and tie up an Old Testament phenomenon with a New Testament phenomenon, something that happened in the Old Testament and something that happened in the New Testament. And I want to bring them together, and I want us to see how they are. I've often said that in the Old Testament, it's a shadow of what's in the New Testament. So you see the shadow in the New Testament, but you see the substance in the New Testament. The shadow in the Old, the substance in the New Testament. And it's actually, I want to bring you to the burning bush, and you've obviously guessed it's going to be the burning bush. And I want to explain it to you today because it's a Hebrew teaching. It's a teaching where we will take something that you may never ever have understood before, and when you walk out these doors, you probably think you will never ever understand it again. But at least we'll give it a shot, and we'll see what we can do. And the burning bush and the cross, they have a connection. And I want you to connect. I want you to see that connection, because Christianity is something that is very, very important. It's not just a religion. It's something that you've got a connection with. Every other religion is a religion. It's something, you've got an idol, or you've got this, or you've got that sort of thing. This is faith, the faith of Abraham, and we are the children of Abraham. So therefore, it's important that we get this relationship. And you get a relationship is when you get a revelation. And once you've got that revelation, then it sticks with you. And that's what the whole thing is about this morning. So whether you're here in person this morning, or whether you're videoing it on YouTube, and I do encourage you to watch it on YouTube, I do encourage you to subscribe. Where it says subscribe, please subscribe. It doesn't mean to say you're going to pay money. You know, that word subscribe used to scare me. You subscribe, oh, I don't want to subscribe. It doesn't mean that. It just means that in future, if anything that I do on YouTube will come up on your phone. Whether that's a good thing or not, I'm not so sure. But anyway, that's the way it works. I want to encourage you to subscribe to this channel. And as I say, it doesn't cost you anything. Yes, the bush is about Moses, the burning bush. We remember this great guy in the Old Testament. And the cross is about Jesus Christ, and I don't think anybody needs to be explained about that. But Moses in the burning bush, he was the guy, if you remember, who gave the law. By Moses we got the law, but by Jesus we got grace and truth. So here we have the two things. We've got the two pinnacles, because on the two mountains, on the Mount Sinai, and some places it's called Mount Horeb. It's the same place, it's the same name. And that's where the law was given, and that's when Moses came down. On Mount Sinai is where Jesus was crucified. Grace and truth come by Jesus Christ. Moses, we remember, he led the Exodus out of Egypt. And Jesus, well, he led us an Exodus. The word Exodus actually means departure. So Moses led them the departure of the Israelites out of Egypt. And Jesus has led our departure not just out of sin. And that's what I want to have a quick look at this morning. So here we come. They're coming out of the land of slavery. They're coming out, and we've come out of the sin of the bondage of sin. And that's what's more important. You see, you can have sin, but you can have that bondage, because you can still be a Christian and you're still a sinner and you're still in bondage of that sin. Does that mean you're not saved? No, it doesn't mean you're not saved. It just means that you're being held back by that sin bondage that's holding you back. When Jesus said, I have set you free, set the shekels. When he set Lazarus free, it was the Spirit of God that set him free. It was the Spirit of God that brought him to life. It was the Spirit of God that made him walk out. But it was the church that set him free from his grave clothes. And we've got to take grave clothes off each other, because sometimes we carry around our grave clothes. We carry around our worries. We carry around our guilt. We don't have our joy. We don't have our freedom. And that is the problem that it is. We have come out of sin. We have come out of bondage. We can come out of addiction. And you know, addiction in the world today is absolutely incredible. We have come out of death. How's that? Because we have got eternal life. We step from one. When a born-again Christian dies, they don't. All right? I know that sounds a bit harsh, but it means that the body has died and you step out of that body and you move forward. Your life does not end there. It changes there. And that's what the exciting part is, because you're going to move into a new realm. Now, the Israelites, they were brought to the promise. They were heading towards the promised land. Now, coming out of Egypt and getting to the promised land, they could have got there a lot quicker, but they didn't. So Jesus goes to the cross and he brings us out of sin. He brings us out of death. He brings us out of addiction. He brings us out of guilt. And guilt is one of you know, when they had two sacrifices in the Old Testament for sin, they had two goats, right? One goat was called the scapegoat. That was the goat that was supposed to go free. And the other guilt was the guilt for was killed for your guilt, for your sin. And the other goat was your conscience. You're supposed to let that guilt go away. Okay, what the Jews eventually did was they went and killed that as well. But I mean, that's beside the point. So we're heading towards the promised land. And our promised land, we haven't reached it yet, but it was inaugurated at the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It wasn't inaugurated at him on the cross, but when he rose from the dead, and his resurrection means that because he was resurrected, we can be resurrected. Now, you've heard this story many times, but a lot of people don't get it. They understand it, but it doesn't fall from the head 18 inches down to their heart. You've got to get it into your heart. And that's what's important. Now, we must realize that our journey to the promised land, it meanders. It goes up and down, and we have got good times and bad times. We've got roads. We meet people on the roads. Some of the people we meet on the roads, we don't like them, or we don't get on with them, or they irritate us, and we probably do the same with them. But on that road, moving along that road, we're on that same destination. Now, we may all be on different roads, but we've got the same destination. And the experience we get out of it, we can help one another in going through a tragedy in their life. If you've already been through, if you've been through a tragedy, if you've been through a divorce, if you've been through a sickness, if you've been through financial worries, if you've been through all of this stuff, that is something where you can put it to good advantage. If you've been through heartache, if you've been through all of these things, you can help. You can really help. It's like when you have a child and other mothers want to come and help and give you advice on how to bring that child up. We can do that. We can do it. And there's no point in doing it by putting your arm around someone and saying, "Oh, just have faith, brother," and then walking away. You must be there. You must assist them. The hill we climb is a tough hill. It's a rough hill. It meanders. You know, when they took the sheep up to the hills, the shepherds, they didn't take them straight up. They meandered them up that hill until they got to the top of the hill. Now, when we're going through this life situation that we have got, this life where we are in at the moment, before we put on the new body and the spirit is with the Lord, we go through all of these meandering and we look. But you know what? We come against troubles. We come against finance troubles. We come against health troubles. We come against people who are desperate. We come against people who are getting divorced. We come against people whose relationships are terrible. We have come against people whose families are falling apart. We come against people who have lost a lot of their families. We come against all of these things, heartache, and that is when we can try and help and be assistance to these people. And the best way you can be assistance to them is to just be there. That's it. You don't have to sit with them day and night. Just be there. Just know that I am there. But when you climb this mountain, wow, when you get to the top of all that meandering and you look down and you see the people that you have helped, you know what? Have you ever got to the top of a mountain and the view is absolutely breathtaking? And that's what it's like in the Christian walk. And so the millions traveled from Egypt, and when they came out and they lived and they died amongst all these generations, they eventually got to the place where Jesus was. And that's the part in the Bible that really lifts us up. Jesus is the author and the finisher of our faith, but it was the same God that raised Jesus from the dead that took the children of Israel out of Egypt. The most important story in the New Testament, obviously, is the cross. And the most important story in the Old Testament, to me, isn't the Garden of Eden. It is the burning bush. But what I want to do today, I want to connect those three events. And I want to show you something. Because here we see, and let's just go to the first one. It's Exodus 3, verse 14. And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am hath sent me to you. Now, would you know what that meant? If I said I am, well, maybe you would. I am have sent you. Yeah, that's all he got. He didn't get any more. I am hath sent you unto you. Then we skip right through to the Gospel of John, and in John 8, verse 58, Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, that means truly, truly, or really, I'm really serious. I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Now, the two words I am in Exodus 3:14 and in John 8:58 is exactly the same Hebrew words. In fact, in the next verse, if you read your Bible, they pick up stones to kill him because they say he is committing blasphemy. The last scripture that I want to read is Galatians 2, verse 20. And this is the Apostle Paul. And he's talking now to the church in Galatia, which is in Asia Minor, which is today Turkey. And he says, I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, not I, but Christ lives in with me. In other words, he says, I've died with him. But nevertheless, he's living within me, but my old man is dead. And the life I now live in the flesh, that's the one we're living in, I live by faith, not emotion. Live by faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Now, have you noticed in the three verses, we see in the very first one, I am hath sent me unto you. Second verse, before Abraham was, I am. And in the last verse, I am crucified with Christ. So Paul puts it in a strange way because he's not saying that he's God. Paul takes his own I am. Whatever, we have all got an I am. I am something. You know, I am a human being. I have got something. And Paul then puts us in that story of the I am. Because God says he's I am. Jesus says that he's God, I am. And Paul says, well, the I am that I've got, I'm going to put it and I'm going to put it. And he puts it quite clearly there. I am going to put it on the cross and be crucified. And here we see that we get God and man coming together on the cross. So if the cross is nothing else, it's a place I go to meet the Father of God and be placed into the beautiful body of Christ. So the Old Testament is a shadow of something, and it's a shadow of the substance of the cross. So God tells Moses, he says, I want you to go tell the Pharaoh that I am sent me. But we never ever got to know who the I am was. You know, the Old Testament, I am what? I'm the Alpha, I'm the Omega, I'm the beginning, I'm the end. I am Jehovah Jireh, I am Al Shaddai. But it wasn't explained. It was words, and it came out like that. But God is, He is what Jesus said He was. I am, Jesus said, the way, the truth, and the life. So they did not get to see what God was like until Jesus came along and He said, I am the way. And they said, yeah, okay, you're the way, you're the truth, you're the life, but hey, show us the Father. And He said, I'm showing you the Father. I am the Father. I am showing you what the Father is like. You guys, for years, have always thought that I am just a merciless God that's about to slap you. And in fact, Christians, even when they get born again, expect to get flattened every now and again. You get a beautiful boost, you get something, you get a blessing, and then you're waiting for, there's something bad's going to happen to me. That's what God is. He's the way, the truth, and the life. The Israelites, they thought, well, I'm an angry God, I'm a holy God, I'm a just God. I am Jesus. That's what He said. So if we get crucified at Calvary, we are crucifying all the other options. What's that mean? All the other options of the I ams that we think we are, or we think we have got. Okay. Also the I ams that I could be. So that when we become what He says that I am, in other words, we lay everything down, everything that we have got, every I am that I am sore, I've got sickness, I've got anger, I've got venom, I've got this in me, I've got that in me, I've got hatred, I've got gossip. Those are I ams. You lay all of those down at the cross and they get crucified with Jesus. Now, one interesting thing is when the bush was burning, there was nothing. Moses, when he looked at that bush, I mean, there was a lot of bushfires, but this one, it got his attention. In Exodus chapter 3, verse 1 to 5. So the burning bush reveals God as I am. It serves as a revelation and an invitation. The I am is crucified at Calvary, the embodiment of both God and man. Our I am dies there as well, salted beneath the fire of God's love. The cross is our burning bush, the guarantee that something will vanish. Something will vanish, and I'll tell you how it will vanish, but what matters will remain. What vanishes is when you have the fire, the smoke goes up, the ashes go down, and there's nothing in the middle. And this bush was not being consumed. So our approach to the cross is a desire to leave where things we are. He says, take off your shoes. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro. Jethro was his father-in-law. It says it there. His father-in-law, the priest of Midian. The Midian is in Saudi Arabia today, and he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb. That's Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. Verse 2, and the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not basically burning up. It wasn't being consumed. In verse 3, then Moses said, I will turn aside, and this great sight, why the bush does not burn. So Moses sees plenty of bushfires. But he sees now with the tail of his eye, this one's burning, but it is not burning up. So he turns around, he says, I'm going to turn to one side, and behold the great sight, why that bush does not burn. Verse 4, and when the Lord saw, he turned aside. So God watched him, he turned aside to look. When God saw that Moses turned aside to look, God called him from the midst of the bush, the invitation. Come to me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. called him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. And then he said, do not draw near this place. Take your sandals off your feet. For the place you stand is holy ground. Why would he have to take his sandals off his feet? Well, you see, back in those days, slaves didn't have shoes. Slaves couldn't afford. It wasn't because, you'd think, well, at sore feet, they'd put something on. They didn't have shoes. Slaves didn't have. So God is saying, I want you to come to me as humble as possible. I want you to come as a slave. And that's what we do at the cross. We put everything down. Remember the prodigal son? When his father was looking afar off and the son was coming, what was the first thing he did? He put sandals on his feet. He put a ring on his finger and he put a cloak on him and he put a crown on him. And he says, I'm not giving you an identity because what? I've given you sandals. You're no longer a slave. You are my son. You belong here with me. Our sonship, we belong with God. Now, in the next chapter, chapter 5, Moses questions God. Now, first of all, we'll look at chapter 4. Then Moses answered and said, and it's okay to ask questions, by the way. People say, all right, we're not supposed to ask questions. We just have to accept by faith. No. You can ask as many questions as you like if you don't understand something. Answered and said, suppose they won't believe me or listen to my voice. Suppose they say the Lord has not appeared to you. So the Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, it's a rod. And God then said, cast it on the ground. So he cast. Now what is this rod, by the way, before we go any further? What does a rod represent? It's his authority. It's his authority. The rod is eventually what he parted the Red Sea with. The rod came into a great lot of stuff. The rod was his authority. The authority of men in those times was the rod. He says, I want you to throw that authority, that rod. I want you to throw your authority onto the ground. And he said, cast it on the ground. So he cast it on the ground, and it became what? A serpent. Now, there's never been anything good in the serpent about a serpent up to this point. Remember the talking snake in the Garden of Eden? Well, here we go. And Moses fled from it, as you would do. Well, most of us would do. Then the Lord said to Moses, reach out your hand and grab it by the tail. And he reached out his hand and caught it, and it became a rod back in his hand again. Wow, that is something. That rod was his whole heritage. That rod was his ID book. That rod was his driving license. That rod was everything. So what happened? The burning bush is a shadow of the cross. Then so is everything else. God forces us to confront the snake that is within us. The rod represents our looks, our pride, our low self-esteem, our anger, our money. Whatever we hold, we are forced to give up at Calvary. It's got us more than what we've got it, if you know what I mean. Sometimes, oh no, I don't think I'll do that. I don't think I'll pay for this. I don't think I'm angry. It's got me. No, I'm totally angry. It has got you. There's people I know with gambling addictions, and that gambling has got them more than they've got the gambling. The only way to overcome it is to own it again. So he told them to pick it up. Don't pretend it's gone. If you pretend it's gone, oh, it's okay, it's gone now. What happens is, when you throw the rod on the ground, you will then see exactly the ugliness of what you were holding on to. And if you don't pick it back up and own it, it will slither off into the darkness. But you can bet your boots that that will come back again to haunt you, because you have not got it and you have not dealt with it. You know, in the wilderness, when the people were all bitten by snakes, and Moses said, oh, Lord, what are we going to do? And God said, I'll tell you what to do. Get make a bronze snake, and then put it up on a pole, and get the people to look at the snake. He says, but you're asking the people to look at something that's bitten them. He says, I'm asking the people to look at something that this snake is going to take upon itself. And just as Moses took up that was wrong with you and stuck with it and made you look at it, so Jesus took that, what was wrong with us, and judged it in the fire of his Father. Remember when he said to Nicodemus that if I be lifted up from the earth, I will take all judgment onto me. I will take all judgment onto me. And the snake took, that bronze snake in the wilderness, took the judgment, and the people got better. And Jesus is saying, if people will just look at me and accept me for what I am. So what is wrong with you? It can be a part of the fire of the burning bush. What needs to be consumed can be consumed. The problem of what's wrong with some of us is that we've got so much junk and baggage that we never have accepted redemption at all. We've never let it die at Calvary. Oh, it's easy to say, oh, I'm born again, I've been to the church, I've given my life to the Lord. But have you let everything die at Calvary? And that deceitfulness that the snake can bring is still there in some of us. But you let the snake go and it will return another day. Now, I'm coming to a close very soon, but I don't want you to miss this, because everybody wants to know what's going to happen in end times. Everybody wants to know when the rapture is going to be. Everybody wants to know when the tribulation is going to be. Everybody wants to know when the third temple was going to be. I got a WhatsApp yesterday, and this woman got so excited that there's 5 new red heifers ready for Rosh Hashanah. I'm telling you now, this, what I'm going to tell you, is far, far more important, and yet withal Christians miss it because we're so busy looking into the future instead of just looking at what we are. The Bible opens with a snake. Remember, Garden of Eden? We don't know, and people will argue. It flew into a tree, or it walked into the tree, or it was there, and the snake knew everything. And it closes with a dragon. And the Bible tells us who the dragon is. The Bible tells us who the snake is. The snake is the evil one, satanic Satan. And we know who the dragon is. Why? Because the Bible tells us that the dragon is Satan. Because the longer the snake slithers, if you don't get hold of it and get it and grab it, that snake from Genesis to Revelation gets bigger. So guess what he looks like by the time you get to the book of Revelation. In other words, by the time you get to the end of your Christian life, what's it look like? It's a huge dragon, and will demand, here's what it will do, it will demand your loyalties. Oh, now we're talking about maybe the mark of the beast, or maybe we're talking about some sort of empire. Yes, your snake can do that. It'll rule over you. It will rule over you. It'll demand your loyalties in place of you giving them to God. The Genesis story isn't so much about plants and animals and little butterflies flying around. It's got to do with you. You are in the story of Genesis because it's about your conscience. It's about dealing with your conscience, and it's about turning into yourself. You know the pomegranate the fruit, that the pomegranate grows within itself. It has about 600 seeds. It doesn't flower on the outside. It flowers on the inside. It self-pollinates. It is totally independent. And some Christians are like that. We need to blossom, get out there, and just let the flower go. You either trust yourself or you trust the tree of life. Those are the things that you've got to trust. You trust that, or you trust the tree of life. So instead of turning inward, we must turn to the tree of life. So now the bush burns, but it's not consumed because it has met the tree of life, and it forces a confrontation there. That's what Calvary becomes on behalf of the whole world. And that's why we are called to the cross, so that the cross will be like the bush, but not and not be consumed, because you have laid everything down, including the I am that you got crucified there at Calvary. Now I'm going to pray. And when I finish praying, what I'd like to do is, if there's anyone here that would like to come forward and say, you know what, Pastor, there's something that I haven't let go of. There's something I really need prayer for. Then I want you just to come forward as a prayer line. I'm going to anoint you with oil, and we will pray. There's only, I see Wayne's not here, so there's only me this morning that will anoint you. So if you want to come forward, if you don't, I'm not going to embarrass you. In fact, right now, I would like the camera to be turned off. God bless you. Thank you so much. And if you are at home, it's off.